Let's also talk about two big earnings results that we got here just within the last couple of days, Netflix and Tesla. When it comes to these two names, the bar was set pretty high. We've seen a massive run up in these stocks. Tesla beating on both the top and bottom line, pressure on margins, the price cuts that we have been talking about. That clearly was one of the issues for investors. When it comes to Netflix, a miss on revenue, also their guidance coming up a bit light for the third quarter for sales. That was a huge issue. And we saw that reflected not so much in today's trading action, but the big drops that we saw in both Tesla and Netflix yesterday.
And we discussed both these names earlier in the day, and I think conversation got a little sideways there. But one thing that stood out to me with Netflix was that they discussed so openly that their main driver of revenue is converting people who already watch Netflix but just don't pay them any money, which is a fine story, and they are certainly committed to it. And you can see Netflix really starting to turn the gears of, well, we captured the market and now we will make everyone pay more for it. But I think on the margins, with a name that's up 50% this year, with a name that has a lot of hype behind it and is still working off, as we can see in this chart, some excesses that we saw, in that 2021-2022 period, there's still maybe a sense of, is that it? So that's the whole thing? You're just going to monetize people who don't pay you yet? Like, what, is there no more growth? And maybe Netflix is the first one to admit that everybody got Netflix.
Yeah.
They just don't pay me for it. There's no person who hasn't heard of Netflix.
No, there's no person who hasn't heard of Netflix, but the growth opportunity overseas obviously is a very different story than what we've seen play out within the U.S. But when you talk about...
Show me the ARPU. Not as good.
Well, exactly, and that's what I was going to get to, just in terms of future adoption here when it comes to that ad-based business. I think a lot of that base that they would have captured, at least here in the U.S., obviously their largest market, you would think that most of those people have already converted. So then you got to ask, how many more does that mean that are going to be forced off? Do you share a Netflix?
I was going to ask you. I am the payor, and my parents are mooching off of me.
Wow,
I know.
Look
Very
at
big
you.
of me. Oh, do you guys pay?
No. Well, we pay our
pay
own.
for it, right?
We pay our own.
How's the kids programming on
mooching
Netflix?
Off,
we Disney Plus, we YouTube. What are we doing?
We Disney Plus, we YouTube, we do Hulu, and we pay for all of those ourselves, which you could argue is probably not the best financial decision there, but they're all necessary, at least when you have young kids.